Hello everyone, it's Kay here and I'm here today to try and show you the alternative way to making the decorative tassels as inspired by Tmika Scrapdaworld. This is how the tassels look when they are packaged, and I think you'll agree they're really cute, really versatile and ultimately usable. So I've got one made here out of the packaging. And this is how it looks. They really are quite adorable, and your basic ingredients are jump ring, lobster claw, beads of your choice. I've actually used crochet yarn here because in my opinion it's a nice thickness to work with and gives the tassels a nice bit of fullness, some ribbon, and then something just to decorate the front of the ribbon with to tie it all up together. So I'll leave that one there. Hopefully you can see what it is I'm doing. Now I'm very fortunate and I have some different shades of the crochet yarn. This is a buff beige colour, which is terribly shabby chic and fits the bill. I've got the pink, I've got the green, which is what this colour is, a very soft green, and I've also got some white with some sparkle in it, but today I've decided I'm going to use this pink because it works very nicely. And what I use as a former for my tassel is this little box of staples. I find it's just the right size, so that would be about 1.5 inches by 1 inch. Yeah, maybe 2 inches at a push. But this is the box that I use. You can wrap it around your fingers. Go and see Tmika's tutorial and I will leave a link to it underneath. But this is how I do it, and it does make it easier for people with dexterity issues, swollen hands, painful hands, fingers that don't quite work sometimes. You know, we've all been there, we've all experienced these things, and this is just an easier way to deal with what you need to do to make the tassels as I've shown you. So all I do is get my little box, hold the thread into the box like so, and oops, you just wrap around the box. Now there's no set amount of times to wrap the yarn around the box. It's very much an eye thing, and it's also dependent upon whether you want a really fulsome tassel or whether you just want something, you know, that is pretty but not making much of an impression. I like to do something that's quite fulsome, and if I show you the box this way you can see just about how much yarn I've used there. It's several rounds, and of course by the time it comes off the box it's double that thickness, which makes it, to my mind, a very nice level of yarn to use for this particular project. Now, unlike Tmika, I'm not going to get into tying things off and trying to hold the yarn in place while I do it, because to be honest, there is an easier way if you have one of these lovely darning needles in your collection. You can see it's got a large eye, it's quite long and very easy to thread. You just pop your thread through the yarn. When you're selecting your beads to use for this particular project, then clearly you want to be sure that the thickness of that needle will go through the bore of the bead that you choose to use to decorate your tassel with. And having pulled my thread up to one or other end of the box, it's academic which one, you just thread your needle underneath the top threads there. The box acts as a former. You can just pull that through without it causing any damage whatsoever to your yarn, and take it through again. You may pick up paper there, but just pull your needle back out again and start again. And when you get to the point where you have a loop like this the second time round, pass your needle back through it and cinch that together really firmly, so you get that lovely finish to the top of your tying off bit. I've just unthreaded my needle again, just for the hell of it, you know, these things happen. But thankfully it's a nice wide eye, which does allow you to thread it quite quickly back onto where it needs to be. So I'll bring that up again, and I'm taking it through the loop like so, and just cinching that off really tightly. 2 or 3 times is more than enough just to hold that in place. At this point you don't have to take it off the box, you can leave your work there, and you thread on 3 beads. Now I've got these little beads, they're glass pearls. This is what they call a moon dust finish in a cream colour. I'll then add a pink one onto the mix as well. No, that one's not going to do it, but I know one that will. And you pass that through and down onto the top of the first bead, and then I'm going to take another of the cream pearls and I'm going to pass that on like so. So you end up with the 3 beads resting atop your little box of tricks there. You then need to make some knots, and that again is quite simple. If you use your needle as a tool for getting your threads where you want them to be, keep the knot of the needle to the top of the bead as much as you possibly can. Go through it a couple of times, and then if you hold on to your thread like so and then push it down towards the beads, as you pull it, it settles quite nicely where you need it to be, which is above the top of the beads. And then just go back through that a couple of times just to knot it down. You don't want a whole lot of room between the top of your beads and where they're attached to the main body of the tassel. And you'll find by wrapping that around a couple of times and pushing the knot down toward the top of the bead, you do end up with a very tidy little area that the beads can't actually go back over again, which is always good news because you want it to feel secure and you don't want too much movement with your decorative bits. It could be beads, it could be charms, it could be anything you've got to hand really. You then take a jump ring. Now these are just about an 8mm. When you're selecting your jump ring, do try and get something that's in keeping with the size of your bead so that it looks as though it's all meant to be. And you just thread your needle through from the top of the bead and through the jump ring like so. I've got a couple of crossovers there, and then I'm going to try, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and pull my needle back down through the beads like so. And all that does is just keep everything really tight and where you want it to be. So I've gone down through the 3rd bead, that's all of my beads secure, and then going back through the original cinch point there, I'm going to make another little loop and tie that off really firmly. Don't be afraid, because at this point it can't go anywhere. You're just making a nice little finish on the top of the tassel, and it is important to know that it's going to go the distance and not be a problem to whoever you send your tassel out to. You want it to feel substantial. I've left my needle in place here, and I'm actually now going to add my lobster claw. Now these are little clasps that allow you to fix onto a little hole in your project, or you know, another area perhaps where you've got something that you can just attach the lobster claw to, and you thread that through and onto your jump ring, having prized the jump ring apart. And you don't do that any other way than by a back and forward twist, otherwise you'll alter the shape of the jump ring. And all you do to bring it back into place, having twisted it open, is twist it back the way that you opened it. Make sure that the two areas are aligned again, and then you have a very secure area for your lobster claw to sit in, and that's a nice size. Clearly the lobster claws come in different sizes. I just wanted something, well, I've just used what I've had to hand basically. I didn't want to go out and buy extra things to make these little tassels. I just wanted to use what I had here, and they are in keeping with the size of the beads. They don't look out of the way at all. So that essentially is the top part of your tassel finished. We now have to go on to the body of the tassel to finish off, and as you saw, I've tied it off a couple of times again. What I'm going to do now is just gently relieve this off the little box that I've used, which then gives rise to this hoop scenario, and you can see I've used quite a bit of thread here. You then get your sharp scissors, put some pressure onto where the folds meet and trim across. Don't worry about tightening them up and making them look tidy at this point, because you've still got some tying off to do. Now I'm bringing my thread that so far hasn't been broken at all down to the top of the little cordage for the tassel, and I am just going to wrap that around once and twice very tightly. I'm going to then, using my needle, thread that down and under that band once and twice, and that stops that from going anywhere, and you're left with this really lovely tidy finish to your tassel body. You can at this point tidy them up if you so desire, and then it is about decorating. I think I might just take this round to the other side and tie off in a couple of areas there, and it's just that little cinch again. You make that little knot and tie it off like so. You can then make that integral to your, that thread, integral to the rest of your tassel, or you can trim it off at the top. The next thing you need is some ribbon if you want to decorate further, and let's face it, that's what we're aiming for. And I've got here some very fine ribbon, and I'm going to put some glue onto the knot there that was where I cut off my main thread. I'm going to put my ribbon over the top of that, and then I'm going to wrap that around, and you do need to make that quite a tight wrap. You don't want anything to come adrift, and once you've gone round it once or twice, you can just trim off the excess and pop some more glue underneath and just roll that back in to where you need it to be for a nice tiny finish. And that is that part of the tassel completed. What I like to do then, and what I've done on my previous decorative tassels, is I've made a little bow, and it's just one rabbit ear and 2 rabbit ears, and cross them over to make a knot as if you were tying shoelaces. Hold on to your ends very, very tightly like so, and you end up with a nice little bow that isn't going to be too out there to match in with the rest of your tassel. If you then fold your ribbon in half, with the fold uppermost cut towards your fingers at an angle, and you end up with the swallowtail finish to your ribbon. And again on the other side, and cut up, and there is a delightful little bow. Look for an area that needs a little bit of prettying up on the rest of the make. Add a touch of glue to that like so, and we're just going to add that ribbon onto the front of the tassel. Press down on it. I mean, that just finishes it off really nicely. It's not essential, but it does tidy up. If you're happy with how the tie around the top of the tassel looks, then you don't need to worry with that band of ribbon. It's a question of choice really. And then I have a tiny little diamante flower, if I can find it. What did I do with that? In amongst my scissors. And I'm just going to again put some glue onto the top here and add my little floral tribute to the ribbon, squidge it down quite firmly, set my glue gun free, otherwise it'll be dripping all over the place, and then I'm going to straighten up the end of my tassel and just trim that off a little bit just to keep it all tidy. Cut across just to suit, and there it is. That's another decorative tassel to go with the green one that I made earlier. Whoops a daisy, they've both got the same finish on them, but clearly you can do so much with these to decorate them more. You can use little charms, you could vary the colour of your beads and the style of bead. They don't have to be the same. I just like things to look as though they're in a little set for packaging and that kind of thing, and it just keeps everything looking really, really nice. I just need to trim that off a bit. By doing the swallowtail, you do stop a certain amount of fraying with the ribbons. It's not fail-safe, but it is a nice way to finish off your ribbon ends. So that completes the tutorial. I hope it's been of help to you, and I hope if you do have hand issues that it will make something like this easier for you to do and make your own little tassels to send off to friends, and that's how they look close up. Really, really pretty, I think. So thank you for sharing this time with me. As I say, I hope it's been helpful, and I hope it's giving you an alternative to the wonderful tassels that Tmika Scrapdaworld shared with us. Take care everyone, bye bye for now.